Okay, so you ran and you were successful, and then you were sworn in at the Commonwealth Court
in 90.
in 90. Was that sort of a shock to you? But you had some experience with the Commonwealth Court before you were elected.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the city solicitor's office. It actually started when I was in law school because
Really?
Lou Mandarino was my torts teacher.
Okay.
And when he was torts teacher, he had irregular class habits because he was on the Constitutional Convention Committee.
Yep.
And so he was one of the original members of the Commonwealth Court.
Right. Yeah.
And so the Commonwealth Court, for the city is like the main institution, the main court. And I can remember the first time I went to Commonwealth Court, I think it was probably in April or May of 73. And they set me up. They sent me up to get a stay on an order of the Court of Common Pleas that ordered us to allow an adult movie theater to be open. And the first person I met was Ron Darlington.
Yep.
And he took me in to see Judge Bowman.
Judge Bowman, who was the president judge, and Ron was the administrative assistant.
Pardon me?
Ron was the administrative assistant.
Yeah, and he took me in, and I flew up in the morning and I was out of there. Went in, half hour later, I was out of there and it was the night.
Okay.
I got in the plane and come back. That was the time where it was Allegheny Airlines, flew back and forth almost every hour.
Wow. Okay. Didn't you have some battle with the Harrisburg hospitals at one time?
At Pittsburgh hospitals.
Excuse me, the Pittsburgh hospitals, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was actually, I was after, my target was AGH, but I got in by accident, the target ended up as UPMC. No, Presby. It wasn't really UPMC at the time. And I was going after their tax exemptions.
Right.
And I entered into a deal where they were going to give the city $10 million a year for so many years with UPMC. And by that time, I ran out of runway. I couldn't go after the other hospitals. I did a deal with St. Francis, but if you would have asked me if hospitals would have been charitable back then, I said, no, there's no way that they're charity. If I would have gone to trial, I don't know what I would have won, because it constantly amazes me that the courts uphold tax exemptions when they give no money away. There's the Institute of Medicine study and all of this. So, and it hurts the cities. 80% of people in hospital beds are not city residents.
Yeah. And they get into so many ventures where they're making money.
They call it revenue of over expenses. And they were very entrepreneurial. They have for-profit subsidiaries. And they pay their chief executives
a lot of money.
A lot of money. You don't know how much money, because the Form 990s only tells you with the hospitals. But there's all these offshoot companies that are for profit that don't have to report. So you don't really know. One chief executive was on the 990 was like $6 billion.
Yeah.
But the scuttlebutt that he was actually making $16 million.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have to say he was worth every cent, but that's another story.
He was very capable.
Very capable. He was too capable for his, pardon me?
Who was that again? Who was very capable?
The head of UPMC.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I think you represented the state of the city of Pittsburgh for several years, and I think you look back favorably on those years. Now let's go to your 30 years on the Commonwealth Court. What do you remember most about the Commonwealth Court and some of the cases that you had? I, th- I think
Um,
I think in particularly the PARS case.
well, you're thinking of that. I mean, well, my initial impression of the Commonwealth Court is how competent everybody was on the staff mainly. Quite frankly, I think you should get an interview, and Chris should have an interview, and Jamie Colley should have an interview because he was one of the first law clerks for Judge Menser, and I think that's another view. The other thing about I was not a stranger to the Commonwealth Court. I had personally argued about 125 cases there
Okay.
before I got on the court. So, I mean, the first day I argued 4 cases, 3 zoning and 1 tax case. And and the city of Pittsburgh, when I was there, probably had 400, 500 cases when I was city solicitor. I mean, we appealed everything. We had 2,200 cases. So,
Well, the city solicitor before you probably had a lot of confidence for you to go up to Harrisburg and argue these really cutting edge cases.
well, at a certain point in time, like for instance, we had a good office. My first boss in the city solicitor's office was Gene Strasberg. You know, my supervisor, and Gene was very competent. He died a couple years ago. He had come out of his family. The grandfather they were prominent attorneys, and he came to the city. He was after he was O'Brien's law clerk, and I think he had planned to spend a couple years at the city, and he then went on to the Common Pleas Court. If he'd have been born 10 years earlier, he went to Harvard and Yale. I think he would have been at least on a circuit and could have been on the Supreme Court. Really intelligent,
Extremely capable.
extremely capable, and he taught me a lot coming out. So he was my supervisor, and he left, and gradually I assumed a lot of. I got a lot of cases. I did. I started out. They were doing a new zoning code, and the guy that was going to write it, which never got written, was doing the zoning work. So they gave me the zoning work, and then I got the property appeals work, and then even before that, I got the police work. And so I had a bunch of stuff, and a lot of that was litigation. And then in '78, I got the Renaissance 2 projects, which was essentially the new buildings, PPG, which was a big lawsuit. It was probably the last of the big blight lawsuits. Schenck and Belikovsky were the 2 leading cases in Pennsylvania that a municipality could take for the remediation of blight. So I did that case, and I did all the condemnations for which is now called One Mellon, and did the litigation on which ultimately became the Pennsylvania and the Federated Project, the Weston, and I was involved in the Stanley Theater Project, which we were putting in a cultural district. And so that ended up as, it's called Benedum now.
Okay.
Benedum in Pittsburgh. We did that. So there were like phases. Initially, I started out as doing police type of cases, and then I got zoning cases, and then I got tax assessment and tax exemption cases. And then I got the condemnation and real property cases. And by that time, I had moved up to deputy. And I was supervising people on cases and doing some myself. I always did litigation even when I was city solicitor. We only had 20 attorneys, and quite frankly, I enjoyed it.
So you really do believe that perhaps your best training of all was the city solicitor's office then?
Yeah, for the Commonwealth Court, for a good portion, we were self-insured on workers' comp.
Yeah.
And I never did it as an attorney, but I supervised it. Even when we decided that we didn't want to do it anymore, every couple of weeks I'd meet and we'd go over the things. We did unemployment, which was a Commonwealth Court thing. Part of the time I did Public Utility Commission. I did rate cases. I did personally, flew up to Harrisburg fly up on a Monday and leave on a Thursday, and would sit in Utility Commission hearings. I did that for a month. Did crossing cases. I did some negligence cases when I was at the city.
Wow.
We did the York versus, was that York? We took over from the city of York to uphold the Tort Immunity Act back then. So if you go back to just put City of Pittsburgh in, put in title City of Pittsburgh, and you put it in Westlaw, you go back to the early 1900s. Pittsburgh has way many important cases. Go to the Supreme Court. When I was at the city, we had 3 cases that went to the U.S. Supreme Court. I had the last one, which was the Menorah case. But the city was always much more active than Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We have many more cases in Philadelphia. Although I have to say, that's changed. When I was on the Commonwealth Court, the city wasn't as active anymore. And I think part of that is they brought in corporate type attorneys to be city solicitor rather than.
Yeah, I think they've done that. Yeah.
Right.
What are the most difficult cases you had as a judge? I referenced PACCHS earlier. That was a 3-week bench trial.
That was a bench trial. Hard it was. It was hard because there was a lot of math in it.
Oh yeah.
And since it was a matter of such vital public importance, you had to really explain yourself. I think I put up a couple 100-page opinion.
Yep. Which Justice Weck published for you?
Published the history part. Yes, he did. He published the history part.
Yeah.
Which I'm probably the most proud of, because that is the only opinion or anywhere where somebody says, what is the word? There's the magic words about public education. It's in the Constitution. It said you're entitled to a free or something public education, the right to public education. And we found out where that phrase came from. And that's the only place where you'll ever find it. I think that's why he published it.
And it goes back to the Civil War period, before or after the Civil War, as I recall.
It goes back to, the name escapes me right now, the